In Didactic, you are required to learn 4 times the amount of information compared to undergrad. You can't rely on caffeine, all-nighters, and poor study strategies to get through. You have to rely on systems. Welcome to the Stat Podcast, where we talk about the PPA life, PA school, and the PA you always dreamt of. In this episode, we will be talking about how to effectively use Notion in Didactic to get high quality grades. Not only grades, it's not about the grades, it's about the level of learning that you have to engage in when firehose of information is coming to you every single day. And today, I'm going to lay a system that you might like or you may not like. But the whole point of this podcast is that give you some tools that maybe if you are struggling in Didactic, it could help you out. So with the pricing, so I do pay a yearly price of $48, which is totally not bad for Notion because Notion is a note-taking app and an organization app. That's how I could describe it. I think the reason why I pay $48 is because Notion has its built-in AI feature, which I'm going to show you, and how you can really organize your notes in a very effective way. Without further ado, let's get started. So here you can see my Notion page. And so the first thing we're going to do, we're going to start from a really basic level. Without diving into the whole process of actually taking notes and actually going through Didactic, first I want to show you how to make a basic page for your Didactic. So I'm going to name this Didactic Dashboard, and I'm going to be pretty so that it is certified, I guess, to be used by PA students, because PA students have another level of bouginess, I guess. So I'm gonna put some medical art here quick. The one I like is this one. You can reposition it. Okay, so this I can put in the YouTube and Spotify descriptions, so don't worry about that. You can also get templates from Marketplace, which is right here. There are free templates that really just look like a dashboard, and then you can just format it based on your liking. But since I'm assuming if you're watching this, you may not have a lot of experience with Notion, and so I can just show you really easy way to create a dashboard without paying for stupid amount of money for templates. Definitely go for a free template if you don't like this template, and if you were just starting out, feel free to use this template. The next thing I'm going to do is /, and what that does is you have options of what you want to create, basically. So we're just building stuff here. I want an inline database because an inline database allows you to create tables, but also you can change the layout of tables. So I'm going to say courses. So all of these will be courses. I want to change the view of the dashboard. I want it a board view because it just looks better, maybe a gallery view also. A gallery view is probably aesthetic too. So, and then we're just gonna start create pages. But the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to kind of give each course a label. And so how you can do that is you can edit properties, and well, I don't want this property, so I can delete it. I want to add property, and then I want to select this. I want to select basically. And what this creates is a drop down menu option. This could be named the quarter, because our school was quarter system, and so this could be Q1. And so I'll show you how you can do that. But quarter one, I remember we took, I'm just gonna say we took behavioral medicine, just for an example, because it's going to go well with the example I'm going to show you. So behavioral medicine is going to be a course. You can go and change pictures later, but you're taking behavioral medicine, you're taking lab diagnostics, and let's say you took lab diagnostics quarter 2. Okay, so quarter 2. What this allows you to do is that if you want to filter your courses based on quarter, and so quarter 1 courses will be filtered. And then if you want to filter quarter 2 courses, quarter 2 will be filtered. And so you can play around with this, but I'm going to keep this. I do believe you can start adding icons and stuff. Well, when you open this as a page, you can add a cover, you can add an icon, I can add a brain. If I go here and if I go into gallery, because that's the layout, I can see what kind of card size I want, how big the card. If I want to go with a small card, I can go with a small card. I'm going to keep it a medium card. I can do this. I can play around with it, but I selected an option where your card preview would be card page cover. And so page cover was the little background that we put. And so you can change, you can play around with it. Like, don't spend a ton of time. So I'm going to go into mental health and yeah, put that. So you can make it look pretty. The point is you can make it look pretty. So now you have all these courses, right? You're taking all these courses. Obviously, you're not going to take one course. When I was interviewing for PA schools, I thought being an immigrant, South Asian, a person of color who speaks 3 different languages was enough to get me an acceptance because I already stood out. I was one guy in most of my interview sessions, and I had all these different qualities. But you know what? I still didn't get accepted after giving what I thought was my performance of lifetime. But that wasn't the case. It took practice and practice and practice and a lot of strategy in order for me to get that dream PA school acceptance. The best thing about my mock interview prep is that I provide 2 rounds of mock interviews with added practice, plus 2 PDFs with in-depth analysis of your responses. Also, I guarantee PA school acceptances, and if you don't get a PA school acceptance from my mock interview prep, I will give you free mock interview preps in the future until you are a PA student. Now, name a better mock interview prep that is designed to give you interviews. So click the link down below if you're struggling with mock interview prep for PA school. Next thing, what we're going to do is we're going to go in and we are going to add another inline database, which will have your lectures. And obviously you're going to label everything. You don't want to be disorganized. But then what you're going to do is I'm going to give you some. Obviously you can have this template, but what I like to have is I like to have the name of the lecture. So today we are going to learn a little bit about psychopharmacology. Right? That's going to be our lecture. The other properties I want are properties for active recall and spaced repetition. So how are you going to incorporate this? So we're going to add property, and now we have the ability to choose date as an option. And so we're going to do the date, but we are going to rename the date into R1, meaning review 1, R2, another one, R3, and R stands for review. Review 1, review 2, review 3. Now, the reason why I do this before each lecture is to have a clear-mindedness. I want to know exactly when I will have to review a lecture after the lecture passes. So let's say if I have a lecture Thursday, I need to have a clear idea on when I have to review that lecture to not stay behind. And so review 1 is, for me, usually it was 24 hours after the lecture. So it's going to be, let's say, so perfect. Today is Friday. So review 1 would have been today. So review 2 is going to be 2 to 3 days from review 1. And so I would put it on Monday or even a Sunday, because Sunday is a weekend. So, and then review 3 would be a week from the lecture. This is how you would have your reviews. So this is a clear system where I can say, hey, okay, whatever happens, I am going to review this lecture on the 26th, 28th, and October 2nd. This way I will have 3 reviews in before the exam. And then for the exam preparation, we're going to take a look at a different way of review. But this is generally the format for any lecture before you start that lecture. And it's really important to be prepared for the lecture. Another thing that I would like to address is the idea of priming. Now, priming is the idea where you familiarize yourself with the content that you're about to learn. And so I started using priming in my last quarter of Didactic. I wasn't familiar with the idea, but watching a lot of YouTube videos about learning better, I gave it a shot, and it literally helped me with a lot of grades except surgery and procedures, which was honestly one of the toughest classes that I've taken. You want to try to incorporate priming, and how are we going to do that is by I'm going to now set up our lecture now. So priming essentially means that you are familiarizing yourself with the content you're about to learn. And I would take about 15 minutes before the lecture to review the PowerPoint. So I would just go through these 20 slides, or in reality, it would be 50 slides because PA school slides are never 20. But I would go through all these slides, like just look at the headings, look at the things that are most common. So the most common antidepressants in clinical use are SSRIs. And so I would look at like these keywords like common, first line treatment, initial treatment, what kind of SSRIs are there. Just look at the SSRIs, and like when you initially look at the drugs and any pharmacology, you have to first learn the drug name. You have to learn the generic name, the brand name. So you need multiple repetitions. You need to look at it enough times for you to say, okay, I know 50% of this. I know 75% of this. I might not know 100% by the end of like my 3 reviews, but this is why you prime, so that you can get enough repetition in, because everything in PA school happens at a very fast rate. So you have to see it at a fast rate. And so this allows you to repeatedly see that information. So I would look at the more ordinary, like out of the ordinary things like hallmark. These are some keywords to really understand, to really glance at. And then I would just scroll through. If I have more time, so if I have, let's say 10 extra minutes, right? What I would do is pick a color, and I would just start giving maybe different pieces of information a particular color. So in this lecture, I used a combination of red and blue. And the reason why is because I will use that information and turn it into Anki. And I will show you how to convert your Notion notes into Anki in a very quick manner. So make sure you watch this at the end of the till the end of the video. So you can use a color or two to really change the color of a particular font or a particular piece of information. You can also play around with different fonts, but I just like to use color and maybe highlighting. And what I'm trying to color code is something like this, like most common reason to discontinue is sexual dysfunction. So something like that. And then even this hallmark sign of serotonin syndrome is mental status change, autonomic hyperactivity, and neuromuscular abnormalities. This would be a great Anki card. Instead of putting all this into Anki, like a list of symptoms, I could just say, okay, I could take the big picture stuff and put it in the Anki. Or even better, I can use these numbers. So like, what is the half-life of Prozac? 4 to 6 days. I mean, it might not be important, but the point is like things that you really have to ingrain in your long-term memory, and the things that really you just can't get around them without using a flashcard. That is the information you would have to put in the Anki, and not everything. Like I know some of them use Anki for everything, but if you're like me, you don't like the idea of just having 150 Anki cards per lecture. This might be an alternative way, and people do just fine without using Anki. You don't have to use Anki for your whole study routines and strategy. So if I have more time, I'll color code things. I'm color coding common stuff, the treatment, the clinical intervention is something that I struggle with to this day. And so I would try to color code treatment, the medicines, the things that I really need of a flashcard to memorize. So during the lecture, what I'm going to do is take some notes. Now, I'm not going to take like, I'm not going to type everything from the lecture PowerPoint. What I'm going to do is make some review questions. And so how that looks like is I'm going to have my PowerPoints on one side, and I'm going to have my notes on the other side, and I'm going to just take notes. So if you do, again, / and you put some headings in, you can do review questions, and then / you can do Anki cards. And I'll show you a quick way to do Anki cards too. But we're gonna go make some review questions quick. And I'm gonna show you how to make some high yield review questions compared to just saying what's the mechanism of action of SSRIs. Like those are really low yield review questions. A better review question would be compare and contrast the mechanism of action for SSRIs and SNRIs. So the answer would be SSRIs increase the reuptake of serotonin, SNRIs increase the reuptake of serotonin and norepinephrine. Now you can take that review question one step forward, and you can just paint a picture of, okay, so if you are increasing all the serotonin, what would be the complication? The complication down the line to look for is serotonin syndrome. And then you can say, okay, the hallmark signs of serotonin syndrome is autonomic hyperactivity, altered mental status change, and neuromuscular abnormalities. But you can really paint this whole picture and really have this one central question that covers a different topic than just simply lamely asking, what is the mechanism of action of SSRIs? So that's generally how I make review questions. So you really have to think about it. You can really get better at it in a couple of lectures if you start doing it with all your lectures. So I really use toggle a lot. So toggle feature allows you to hide stuff inside the toggle. And so we'll just make that the same review question. So explain the difference between SNRIs and SSRIs in terms of MOA and side effects, because they go hand in hand, right? So if you raise too much serotonin, what can you see? You can see clonus as well. So you really have to understand the mechanism of action to understand. You really have to understand the mechanism of action to understand the side effects. So that's a really great question to ask yourself. And then what you can type your answers in the toggle, or you can refer to specific slides. So the answers would be, let's say, slide 3 and slide, let's say, 5, and then slide 7. So you can put it like that. And then once you go through all the, so I'm gonna make some other review questions. So this is a good review question too, because it allows you to compare and contrast yet again. And what I really like is that I have a chart in this PowerPoint that I always refer to, that I don't have it now. Why? For some reason. But I do have a chart. So that's a great question too. You can refer and put answers in, or if you want to save some writing time, slides like 7, 11, etc. So those are some review questions that you can make. And then lastly, I can make, what are some common side effects of SSRIs? Now, this is a high level question. Like each side effect has each SSRI has its own common side effect. So that's what I'm asking. And so I could essentially make a table. And so to make a table, it's just / make a table, and you would put all the medications here. So let's say you put Prozac, you put Zoloft, you could put Lexapro. Obviously these are brand names, and then you can put Paxil. I know Paxil, Paxon pounds, so weight gain, most common. Prozac has a long half-life. Sexual dysfunction, it also causes increased activation, I remember. So it's not good for people with insomnia, because it's going to cause them increased activation. Zoloft, it definitely causes delayed ejaculation. It's kind of off-label for premature ejaculation. So that's a sexual dysfunction in men. Also, it could cause some fatigue. It is a sedating SSRI, and the Lexapro has its own set of side effects. But you can go through. And make a table for it. You can also put their half-lives and stuff. But this is how you can test yourself really nicely with toggle feature. And then what you're going to do is for your Anki, what you're going to do is you're going to make Anki cards in a toggle feature, and then I'm going to show you how to convert that into actual Anki. And so what is the half-life of Prozac? And so that would be 4 to 6 days. Some another great Anki cards would be, what are the main mechanism of actions of TCAs? So this is something that I struggle with. TCAs have a lot of mechanism of action. So it is a antihistamine, so anti-H1, which causes sedation. It is a obviously as SNRI. It is also a alpha blocker, alpha adrenergic blocker. So it causes orthostatic hypotension. And if I'm wrong about this, just take it with a grain of salt, because I haven't reviewed that in a couple of weeks. But the point is that you can make Anki cards. So those would be like 3 main mechanism of actions, I guess. You don't have to. I would say that keep your Anki answers less than 5, and if it's much better, less than 3. And if it's 1, that's even better. So what is the treatment for serotonin syndrome? So it's going to be benzos plus cryptoheptadine or something, cyproheptadine, benzos and cyproheptadine. And then what you can do is you can turn this into a page. We'll label it Anki for Psychopharm. I'm going to label this, right? And then put all the toggles inside the page. And then this is a step by step. So what you can do is export, Markdown, and CSV. Keep everything the same, and you export it. So it's going to go into my desktop. And I'm going to label this Psychopharm, right? Okay. Once you have that, it's going to be a zip file. So what you want to do is you want to click on the zip file, extract the Anki folder, and it's going to be like just a folder that comes out of the zip file. And then you are going to go into, I believe it's this one. So it's createankiflashcard.net. I will also put that inside the description on Spotify. So this is a very quick way to position this well. This is a very quick way to make your Anki cards. But the only downside is that you cannot add, like, adding pictures might be a little bit tricky. I haven't tried it, but if anyone has tried it, be sure to let me know, because I would love to know that. So I would import it. And now see, you have your Anki cards. And benzos and cyproheptadine, half-life of Prozac, 4 to 6 days. I'm good. Mechanism of action of TCAs, SNRI. So the point is, you can make Anki cards super quick. I'm going to put that website name in the description, but it's just 2anki.net, where you can convert your Notion page into Anki cards. So that's a cool way. Next thing, what we're going to do is, obviously, so we have completed the lecture, right? So this is to be done inside the lecture or after the lecture. This is not going to be something that you're going to delay. So you have to finish all this. You have to finish writing down your review questions, understanding review questions, making Anki cards on the day of the lecture by the end of the day. It's going to be a grind, but I think that grind has served me really well during Didactic. After you've done this, you already know when you are reviewing this lecture, and feel free to use the same method. So now let's say we are a day into it, right? And this is our first review. I'm going to go through all the questions, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to color code these questions based on the level of difficulty that I found. So let's say this one was like super hard. Okay, so I give it a red highlighter. Now the next one, I was like, I'm really comfortable with this, so I put a yellow. And then the last one, I'm like, I got this, like, so I'm gonna put a yellow too. So during the next review, so on September 28th, when I review this again, I'm going through all the questions again, but I'm really if I still get this first question that's highlighted red wrong verbally, or maybe I'm like writing down notes on my iPad, what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend a little bit more time. So at the end of these review questions, you want to say, okay, I think the first question is causing me a ton of trouble, and it has been causing me a ton of trouble for the past 5 days. I'm going to take a little bit of time and learn about the mechanisms of action of SNRIs. I'm going to actually look at the synapse. I'm going to maybe watch a YouTube video, like a 5-10 minute YouTube video, and understand the mechanism of actions of SSRIs and SNRIs. And then I'm going to answer that question. And so the hope is that by the end of the third review, all the questions in the review question set are yellow, meaning their difficulty is easy. The whole point of this is to, by the end of your third review, you want to get down to knowing most of the content from the lecture. Now, some questions will be red, some questions will be yellow, but the goal is to address those reds before your exam and just spend more time on those concepts. Color coding the questions, highlighting the questions, gives us a way to see what weaknesses we have in terms of topics we're going to be tested on exams. For Anki, I like to do Anki almost every day. Looking back, I would do more Anki going on my walks. So like kind of pairing my Anki with the cardio I was doing. And so I would do a lot of that if I had to look back. And yeah, so Anki every day, and then review questions as scheduled in this inline database. Before the exam, many people are going to do some blueprint questions. And lastly, I'm going to show you how you can really use Notion in other ways, not just for your lectures. So when we look at the overall goal of Didactic, I think the overall goal of Didactic to learn as many blueprint topic lists as possible. So when I look at cardiology topic list, it's 11%, right? So today I'm going to show you how to kind of take this topic list and make like a little library for yourself. So this is one of the blueprint questions that I got wrong on my primary care blueprint. But let's say you're going through Didactic and you're doing blueprint questions before every exam, let's say before clinical medicine exams, and you consistently get, or you just get a question wrong, right? So what do you do to keep track of it? I think the first thing you need to do is to read the explanation and then save images. And Notion allows you to do that. So I'm going to go into my physician assistant board prep dashboard. So this is my physician assistant board prep dashboard. This is where everything reflects the NCCPA blueprint. So all these topics reflect what the NCCPA blueprint has. I'm going to go into cardiology, and you will see it has on the top, it has all the important stuff: differential diagnosis for chest pain, common pain locations. On the right, you have evaluation cardiology, cardiac exam. So I can review stuff when I'm like forgetting information. I have these quick images, quick toggle downs to really review it really quick before I have to take an exam or I have to review stuff before a rotation. And so on the top, I like to have some really quick informations, really accessible ones. And then I have everything broken down just how the blueprint breaks it down. So if you can see, the valvular heart disease is there. And then you have the vascular stuff, arrhythmias. But I don't have yet is congenital heart disease, which I was going to work in my pediatrics rotation, which is next. So I do have a page for coarctation of aorta. Now I already have this picture saved, but what you're going to do is you're going to go to your blueprint stuff. You're going to copy and paste the picture inside that coarctation of aorta page. But what you can also do is you can copy the explanation, you can paste the explanation, and you can use the AI feature of Notion to organize their notes. So I think so this is the prompt I used: organize and make tables and lists whenever possible, make common things in red bold font. So I'm going to just have the AI take care of that. So the point is to have a separate page for your board prep and then your separate page for your lectures. And during clinical rotations, I also have a separate rate for clinical year because each EOR has its own breakdown, and I need a tracking system to see what topics I need to improve on. But in didactic, you need to have a lecture page, a lecture dashboard, and a board prep dashboard where you are organizing stuff by lectures and you're doing review, you're writing your notes, your review questions, you're making Anki cards in your lecture dashboard, but you are also storing key pieces of information from blueprint, from your lectures inside your physician assistant board prep dashboard. And so the purpose is twofold. After the AI is done, you can format it however you want. Sometimes it adds or it takes away these spaces, which I don't know why, but you can play around with a lot of stuff in Notion, but this is very basic. Anyone can do it. It doesn't require a lot of efforts to actually make a lecture board dashboard, to organize your lectures, to review information in a very efficient way. This is my entire system in Didactic that really helped me out, and I hope it helps you out too. If you like this video, make sure to like the video on YouTube, subscribe, and put a review in the Spotify if you really like my podcast. It helps a lot. And I'll catch you in another podcast. See ya.